Well, everybody, I'm Dr. Michael Abood here. I'm the chiropractor of the group located over here in Twinsburg. So today what I want to talk to you guys about is just kind of wellness and health, right? I think most people kind of, when they think of chiropractors and they think of chiropractic care, they think of neck pain, back pain, and things like that, which is good because that is definitely what I deal with every single day. But to me, the more I learn about chiropractic, the more I do, the more I realize how important and how great the wellness side of things are, right? Especially dealing with the spine, because no one really does anything else to take care of their spine, right? And it quite literally is your backbone, right? Not only that, it cases your entire nervous system, runs through your spine, right? So if you're not taking care of your spine, the sad reality is by the time we reach 20 years old, our bodies are not building up, our bodies are breaking down. And if you're not doing stuff to maintain where you're at, you're falling behind. So right here, this is kind of the illness to wellness continuum. I like this because it's just a great way of visualizing health and wellness, right? I think most people typically kind of live right here in the neutral point. It's kind of no discernible illness, things are fine, I feel good, I don't have any issues, right? Well, the problem is in life and in business, if you're staying stagnant, you're actually falling behind, right? And it's the same thing with health. And like I said, especially once we reach about 20 years old, because that's when our bodies start breaking down. Most people like to wait, you know, they stay here, they wait for something to happen, wait for pain, wait for this. They go get treatment for whatever came up, and then they get back to that neutral point and they feel good, and they stop there until something else comes up, you know? How many people, you know, you eat every single day, right? You know, you ate yesterday, why are you eating again today? It's because you have to maintain your physical appearance, right? You have to maintain where you're at. If you stop eating, you're gonna waste away, right? And it's kind of the same idea with health. So to me, that's where I think chiropractic comes in and can be really beneficial for people. So here we got kind of the 3 root causes of disease, right? I think there's really only 3 things that are gonna cause a disease, cause discomfort, cause these issues, right? First is gonna be a chemical imbalance, right? You know, whether that's eating bad food, taking drugs, doing, you know, your organs aren't working properly, they're not secreting the proper hormone, they're over-secreting, under-secreting. It's gonna lead to chemical imbalances, which is gonna lead to a whole bunch of issues, right? You can have physical damage. You know, you actually have a malformed bone, a malformed organ, physical trauma that causes disruption in these things, right? Or you can have neurologic, right? The brain controls everything, it controls everything through the nervous system. If you have any issues, any, you know, damage to your nerves, your body's not gonna function properly, right? And so these all work individual, but the reality is they kind of all intertwine with each other, right? You know, for instance, a chemical imbalance. You know, I'll use diabetes as an example, right? Like type 1 diabetes, you're born with a pancreas that does not function properly. You have physical damage to your pancreas, which leads to your body's inability to produce insulin, which leads to a chemical imbalance in the body and can lead to a whole bunch of issues if it's not maintained properly. Type 2 diabetes is kind of the opposite. Overload of sugar, the body's pancreas cannot keep up producing enough insulin. You have that chemical imbalance, which in turn causes damage to the pancreas, which then can cause damage to the rest of the body. So it kind of is a two-way street. Or you can have a neurologic issue, right? Nerves that go to the organs aren't making that proper connection. Now all of a sudden, your stomach is not secreting enough acid, your body is unable to digest your food. That goes from a neurologic issue to a chemical imbalance real quick, right? So they all kind of work in conjunction with each other, right? And so when we're dealing with chiropractic on that side of things, we deal with mostly number 2 and number 3. Because, like I said, all of these are connected, number 1 becomes affected because of number 2 and number 3. So it really is addressing all 3 components of health. So first of all, the physical damage, the physical side of things, right? So I have kind of these x-ray models, and then I have this, I'll pass around too. So you can see this is what kind of textbook normal looks like. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, kind of as things start to degenerate and deteriorate. So you see over here in this textbook normal, I guess it maybe doesn't look too great on this projection, but you know, we got a nice smooth curve here with the spine, we got a bone in the disc space, right? And you can see kind of all the way through, smooth curve, plenty of space here. The bones are perfectly squared off at the edges. That's what a healthy spine is supposed to look like. As things start to wear down, and we get here, you can see there's no longer that smooth curve here. Things are getting pretty straight. And again, it doesn't look too great on this projection, but you can see there's less disc space in here less disc space in here. As we work down here, looks pretty good here, looks pretty good here, but right in there, and again, instead of kind of this nice squared off over here, you see it's starting to come to a little bit of a point. And then as we come even further and we degenerate even more, you can see that one, there's even less disc space in through here, and it's coming out to more of a point. And as that starts coming out to a point, that's arthritis and that's a bone spur, okay? And then when things get too bad, all of a sudden, we get to this point where they almost fuse together because they don't want to move. They know if they move, there's going to be problems, okay? And you know, like you said, there's no disc space in there either. And the problem is you ask anybody, you know, how does that happen? Why does that happen? The answer is always the same. The answer is always it happens with age. And I don't love that answer. It's commonly seen with age because it takes a lot of time to develop. But even looking at this one here, right? You can clearly see there's no disc space there. But as we come down here, that's some good disc space there. As we come up here, that's some good disc space up there. Problem is those are the same age as this one right in here. So it's not an age thing, right? The problem that this area right here was compromised for whatever reason. You know, it could be a slip, fall, car accident, football player, whatever. But if they don't do anything to address that area of their spine, as I mentioned, right, our bodies are breaking down, not building back up. So from a chiropractic standpoint, you know, I can't take something that looks like this and make it look like that, or something that looks like this and make it look like that. But what we can do is we can take something that looks like this and prevent it from getting to that point. And most of the time, you know, people wait too long, I should say. They wait until they're at this point typically to come in. And as you can see, right, with the less disc space, bone spur, you think someone that looks like this is going to require more work than someone that looks like that?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's more physical damage going on here, right? And so along with the physical damage that goes along with the spine, and here's the thing, right? We haven't even talked about the nerves that come out of here. Do you think that your range of motion and your feeling is going to be different if your spine looks like this versus like that or like that? It's going to change that range of motion, right? And then as we go further along, on top of all that, that range of motion and things like that, I mean, similar to your knee, right? How many people do you know say, yeah, I lost a lot of cartilage in my knee, it's bone on bone, it hurts. It's kind of the same thing with the spine. And then on top of that, the spine has, like I said, it houses the whole nervous system, right? The brain, as we mentioned, controls everything. The whole nervous system, everything in your body is connected through nerves, and every single one of those nerves runs through the spine itself. So you can see when you have issues with the spine, it's going to be putting pressure on these nerves that come out. And this is just a couple different views, right? You can have the disc itself putting pressure on the nerves. You can have the disc degenerating because the discs themselves, you know, they separate the bones from rubbing together, but they also create this hole over here for each nerve root to get out. As you start losing that space, it's going to start putting a lot more pressure on that nerve. And then here's just kind of a, you know, top view of things, right? This would be, you know, if we chop me in half looking down, right? So that's the spinal cord here. This is what it looks like normally as that nerve root's exiting. This is what it looks like as there's degeneration and arthritis there in the spine. So you can just see there's less room for that nerve to kind of navigate. And so what happens when there's irritation on the nerve roots? The most typical that we see are going to be kind of tingling and numbness down the legs or arms. You'll see weakness in the muscles, increased or decreased sensitivity. Pain is often, you know, an indicator. And so those are the symptoms that we feel, right? But more importantly, if you're feeling that, that tells me that there's a decreased communication between the brain and the rest of the body, right? So as we see what the nervous system itself actually looks like, right? I don't think anyone in here is going to disagree that the fact that the brain controls everything, right? I think everyone kind of is on board with that. And as you can see, this is literally what the nervous system looks like. Some of these nerves here in the middle are kind of chopped off, but I mean, that is literally what controls your entire body, okay? And if there's any pressure on any of these nerve roots, like I said, it's going to lead to these symptoms, okay? And typically, what people, like I said, most people associate back pain and neck pain with chiropractic because those are the symptoms that you feel, those are the symptoms that you see. But again, how many times do you feel anything that's going on in your stomach? Do you ever feel yourself digesting? Do you ever feel yourself pumping blood through your arteries? Do you ever feel yourself, you know, pushing bile through your intestines? No, those things just happen, right? You don't feel that unless there's a pressure change in your body, right? You eat too much food, your stomach expands, it hurts. You don't eat anything, your stomach shrinks, it hurts. Those are the only times you feel anything, you know, in your viscera. So, and then as we look at all these nerves, right? Every organ, every system in the body, you can actually trace the nerve root back to the spine at specific levels, right? So do you think if pressure on the nerve can cause any of these things? Do you think pressure on the nerve, hold on. So if pressure on the nerve roots can cause all those things, do you think pressure on the nerve root is going to change the way some of these organs function if those nerve roots go to those areas? It can. So I have a couple people that I deal with right now. Like I said, most people I deal with are back pain and neck pain. I have some people I deal with that just for congestion. They've done everything, nothing else seems to work. They get adjusted and it's helped their congestion. I have one lady I see strictly for heartburn. She's done a million different things for heartburn. Nothing else has seemed to help. Getting adjusted has been kind of the one thing that helps her. I have another guy, he fears eating because his digestion has been so bad. He eats, he gets constipated, he doesn't feel good. He's done everything else. He's been getting adjusted and that's been helping. Now I'm not sitting here and saying that chiropractic is this magical cure-all for everything, but it is one of the few things outside of an overload of chemicals that can have a global response within the body. So if you know anyone, excuse me, on top of those people, like I said, with the neck pain and back pain, I want you to also pay attention to some of your friends that say, I've been dealing with this for several years. I've done this, I've been here, I've gone to this doctor, and they don't have any answers, right? Those are people that could be potential good chiropractic cases because they've tried everything else. And if it's not, if it's a chemical or a physical damage, most of the time they're going to be found somewhere else. If it's a neurological issue, most people don't have a good response for that. So that'd be a good person to send my way. Thank you guys for listening. Do you have any questions?
Do you guys deal with people with Medicare stuff? Like, is that covered? Is that like a covered thing in the Medicare normally? Do you know?
Typically,
Okay.
depending on what Medicare they have, because as you know, there's several different layers and levels to it. But for the most part, most people that show up in Medicare are covered.
Okay.
Why did the bone spurs happen? Is it from the bones rubbing?
It's just the body's natural response when you got this pressure on these nerve roots, and so the way the spine's supposed to function, right? There's up and down 26, 28 bones going on, right? And they all rely on that motion at each individual level. When those bones aren't moving, there's pressure on the nerve, right? And the body's for some reason this body's intelligent response. I wish I had a better answer as to why it does that, because it seems counterintuitive. But when there's pressure on the nerve root, that's why muscles typically tighten up. The natural response is just a tight muscle spasm in the back, right? Eventually the body's like, all right, we can't just constantly be spasmed out, holding things in place. So it lays down bone to hold itself in place because that feels like that's the smartest thing to do.
I see.
Any other questions for me?
Do some people have to come see you for the rest of their life?
Yes and no. So, like I was saying with this, right? If I see someone who's in a situation like this, chances are, like I said, they're going to need more care than someone who's like this or like this, right? Just because of depending on the degree of physical damage. Now again, there's plenty of people that have this type of damage going on, have little to no issues, and they're fine, right? But there's plenty of people that look like that and have a bunch of issues. So it's not a perfect one size fits all. But like I said, if you're someone who looks like this or like this and you have a bunch of symptoms and issues, you're probably going to need to see me more frequently than someone who's fully healthy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've been seeing a chiropractor for 17 years.
Wow.
So
Once you start, you'll continue to go.
most of the time, because most of the time, if like I said, if I catch you here, we're going to want to prevent you from getting here, right? If I catch you here, we're going to want to prevent you from getting here or here or here.
No,
So.
one thing you may want to tell people about is that one thing I learned is I went through a couple car accidents and I went to a chiropractor. They helped me out a lot. And one thing I learned going through it is that most insurance companies will actually cover up to 20 appointments per year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not too much out of your pocket just to go and get evaluated and let him do that work. So I mean, most people don't know that. They just think, oh, this is just coming out of my pocket. And a a lot of people, a lot of chiropractors too aren't actually doctors per se, right? So I don't know if you want to talk to that, you know, so.
I won't talk on that.
But, you know, so that's another thing that's important, right? Is that somebody that goes through that and has those certifications like you have, is got a leg up on somebody that just runs a, you know, fly-by-night operation, right? Type of thing, so.
I was gonna ask if, do people usually have to get x-rays or do you?
Yeah, so I x-ray everyone when they come in the office before we start, so I can see exactly what's going on, right? Because everyone, like I said, everyone's different, you know, whether it's, you know, the curves in the spine, degeneration in the spine, you know, mild scoliosis, things like that, because that's gonna change how I would adjust each person based on how things look.
Can you see arthritis in an x-ray?
Yes.
Can you review my x-ray, please?
Yes, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm just kidding.
I think you, I
I
think
think
you
I
have a
have
little
it
bit.
in my neck.
I think you have a little bit in your neck
Yes.
from what I remember.
It's all that cell phone talking.
That happened years ago.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening. If you have any other questions, you know, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, email me, whatever you got. I'm happy to help. So, thank you.